Hello, dear viewers. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Becca from Readings by the Empress with Mia here, who might be climbing around here and creating a little bit of trouble, but that's okay. She just wants a little attention. So we give her attention, right? All right. So I want to read today. I haven't been doing many readings, and that's partly because I kind of don't know what to say. I know things are rough lately, aren't they? And things are changing so quickly here in the US, and it's all sort of befuddling and discombobulating. And how in the world can this stuff be happening, right? But the other questions are, what might it bring? And I've been reflecting a lot, and I feel like I have some things to say. So here goes. Well, I've completely changed the way I see this. Things that Source has been telling me for years and years now make sense, make more sense to me. It's like clicking in place. And I think we need to look at what's going on in the U.S. as what was exactly intended to go on in the U.S. It's not just about the current administration. This is about the decline of the U.S. And, we've sat there and scratched our heads and wondered how can the current administration be making so many decisions that are quite destructive to the U.S.'s power. But there have been decisions made even before that were quite destructive to the U.S.'s power and to the rights of the people. So I think that we need to ask instead, look at this little kitty. She's purring. She's happy. She's fine. Let's be more like Mia. Okay. I think we have to ask instead, what agenda are these changes serving? Big finance and big tech. They're global. They're not loyal to any particular nation, though who knows, there might be some who have a soft spot in their heart. Well, there's a lot of greed here, right? This is profit motive. This involves no morality. This is profit motive. But yeah, I remember when I did the reading on Musk and realized, I clearly heard he's his own nation state. So I think, and I'm not just saying Musk, I'm global finance, big tech. They have enough power and money to influence decisions of other nations that a superpower would have. And if they unite, if they work together, that's the unipolar great power. It's not the US. It's not China. That's the power. That's the seat of power. So I talked to you for years now about having seen two groups, right, of global oligarchs, businessmen, and which group was going to become dominant, right? Two groups, I should say, and then China, which always does its own thing. I've always heard this. And I think what's happened is there's been a unification among the two groups. So it's not really West versus East, or West versus Eastern Europe, Middle East. It's not really that. This is about global oligarchs, companies, perhaps even. Maybe it's even the wrong thing to call them oligarchs, because these companies are global finance companies, like BlackRock, are apolitical, amoral. It's profit motive. Only focused on expanding profit and power. Only that. And unfortunately, that has come to be the great, I'm not saying BlackRock alone. I'm saying global finance, global big tech has come to be the greatest power globally. So I think there's some coordination. That's what I keep getting. So let me pull some cards and let's see. I'm going to ask Source to help me talk about this. Okay, source. What should we know? What would be good for us to know? Yeah, right away I get your enemy is not the other person. Right away I get that. Right away. Division is a tool. Very much so. Right away I get that. It's not the opposing party that's the problem. It's not it's not. So disinformation and propaganda, we have seen, become hugely influential, right? Okay. 10 of Wands? Yeah, yeah. Knight of Wands. And then there's Kamala Harris. There's rising leadership. Okay. So what I'm hearing though, but then it's right next to this Knight of Wands. You know, we always seem to think that the next administration will fix things. You know, we'll go swing back and forth between Republican and Democratic administrations, and the next one will fix things, right? And it never happens, does it now? I mean, the Democrats make some headway, like putting a cap on 6 common drugs. They make headway here and there for the people, but the people still lose financial ground and power during Democrats' administration as well as during Republicans' administration. Not quite so quickly as it is during the current administration, but yes, this has been the design for quite some time here. You know, ever since money found its way into politics decades ago in the U.S. But not only in the U.S., in many other countries too. So to me, these two together are like it's held up. It's held up. You know, our hopes for more administration that would be more for the people is sort of held up. And the 10 of Wands is we have been kept so busy as Americans. We've been kept so ridiculously busy that it's been difficult for us to advocate for ourselves, to join together. We still are, right? Those who are working a lot. Yeah. So this is also by strategy. This is also by strategy. So if you ask yourself, what would global finance, global big tech, and if they're together, what would they do to maximize their profits? Because it's always about maximizing their profits and gaining in power, right? And the one thing I see is stability is generally better for business than chaos in a country. We have the world. There's a world view here, though. We have the 3 of Cups, celebration, conquering, right? We have the 7 of Cups, some confusion, some misinformation. So what's advantageous for them is definitely to manipulate, to drive the narrative. And there we see all these media companies bought up, right? And in some countries, you know, great censorship. In the U.S., there's some censorship, but that's so that we see that. So they would want to control the narrative, keep everybody kind of confused with the 7 of Cups. Celebrate, live lavish lifestyles. Yes, absolutely. And we see that. How does that look? Let's see. 8 of Wands. It's not just in the U.S. That means this is a global operation, right? As much as possible. You know, they can have more power in some governments than in others. But this is a global operation. I've said a while back that several months ago, that it's almost like I see the extremely wealthy like grappling for the most, wherever it may reside, right? And in the U.S. it resides in, you know, we have very fertile farmland. We have real estate and 401ks, right? That's where it resides in the U.S., in the bank accounts and 401ks of Americans, right? So that's where it resides there. And they're going to try to get it. You know, we see this market manipulation. going on worse than ever, hoping that people will sell at the bottom because they have to hang on to whatever they have of their retirement. They're going to need it. So I can't afford to lose anymore. So we sell at the bottom. And then the market is manipulated up again, and they've gotten some of your 401k. So it's that kind of thing. That's what they'd be interested in here. During COVID, we saw governmental policies actually strengthening the largest businesses and weakening small businesses. It was okay to go to Walmart, but you couldn't go to the mom and pop store, which would actually technically be safer, but somehow no, they didn't get an exemption from the lockdowns. The PPP loans went mostly not to individuals, but to businesses and larger businesses. Now we see it again. The tariffs. Who are they driving out of business? The small businesses. The bait and switch with the farm grants for the American farmer. The majority of American farms are still family owned. They may be, fairly large companies, but they're family owned. So there are many more family owned farms that are going out of business right now because they made plans based upon a grant that they were promised, and now it's not there, and tariffs will affect them as well. So the wealthy can then get their hands on some of this real estate and some of this fertile farmland. So, you can kind of see, what would the global tech and global wealth, global finance want out of each country? Where is the money? Where is the land? Where are the investments? And if you see policies in those countries that make it easier for global finance investment companies, hedge funds, banks to get this, or this, then they're working. That's a government that is too influenced by global finance and global tech. So the question I think a lot of us have is, so what does that mean? What does that mean? I believe that means the current administration is carrying out the agenda. Let me see. Strength. Yeah. And maybe, who's in office is meant to be who's in office, right? 5 of Swords, winning at any cost, and Page of Swords. And our president is a very good salesman, let's say, right? Very good salesman. Very good at pushing a narrative, whether it's true or not. Very good at that. So that's his role here. And he is hoping to become one of the wealthier oligarchs through his term. And he may, because he is gathering billions. Okay. So this is a reading that's hard to do because people want to believe that we can go back. And I don't think we can. Not to say that all of the structure in American government is going to collapse overnight. No. No. This is a gradual descent, right? This is gradual. And there are other kinds of governing bodies, whether they be states or groups of states or communities, that will spring up and be parallel governments to the federal government as our federal government weakens. So I don't want to panic anybody by what I'm seeing here, but I think I need to share what I'm seeing here. So it's not going back to the way it was. However, the decline may not be so rapid, right? And in certain states, maybe not rapid at all. I do see, like, I'm from Minnesota. I feel like my guides have told me that it is one of the, Minnesotans are sort of cautious generally. And, I think it's all the settlers who decided to farm here and get through long winters, right? You've got to be cautious and deliberate, right? So tend to be kind of cautious generally. And I feel like my guides have told me this is one state that will sort of, handle on the state level much of what the federal government had done, much longer than most, so, and will pay federal income taxes longer than most. I see a day where some of the states just, we're not doing that. We're not paying federal income taxes anymore. Or they find some way, come and get them, right? Because the federal government is decreasing in power gradually. Again, I'm using the word gradually, though, you guys, because I don't want to give people the impression all this falls down all at once, because I don't see it that way. But it's nice to know where the winds may be blowing. So I'll share with you what I've heard. For what it's worth, I'll share with you what I've heard, and what I've heard again and again and again, right? Because that is often the best way to do this. So I don't think things are going back the way they were. I think our federal government will indeed increasingly privatize, will indeed increasingly weaken. Let me see. But we're pregnant with all kinds of possibilities. And the Tower. Okay, yeah, I'm being told, fine, go ahead, emphasize gradually, but they're also telling me there will be some Tower moments. We're pregnant with all kinds of possibilities for some Tower moments that could occur, because that's right. They wanted me to do this reading too, to help you all to prepare yourselves as best you can, because we can indeed get through this all right. Source has been telling me this for years. Saying, listen to your intuition, focus on the practice of your mastery of your own thoughts, whatever that is for you, whether that's meditating, whether that's keeping your mind in more positive places, whether that's, having a more balanced lifestyle, lots more activity. Really, we do need it. And many jobs don't let us have it. But then again, is that a decision to make? Do you take care of your health first and foremost, is what I keep hearing. So it's sort of like, and keep your passports updated just in case. But it's sort of like, what I hear is get your own house in order, health first. I always hear health first. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. Maybe that's for me, but I always hear health first. Yeah. And what else, Source? What else as all this happens? King of Coins. Yeah, if you just keep asking yourself, what would global finance and global big tech want to happen, you'll pretty much be able to see it unfolding and kind of get guesses about what happens next. Seven of Wands. However, the people en masse have a lot more power than these global influences understand, because it is harder to control people than one would think. Because guess what? They can make decisions throughout their day, one after another, that can have a huge effect once it's cumulative. That's why I always say the power of ideas is the greatest power right now. So I just said economic, global tech, and global finance is the greatest power. Yeah, right, in the material realm. But ideas are actually the greatest power. The consciousness we share, the ideas we share, the theories we share. And now we share them not only in the countries, but globally. The people are indeed more powerful. So it's sort of like, if an idea is, I will not work in a corporate job that is extremely exploitative, has no loyalty to me, and underpays me and ruins my health. That's a decision Americans are making more and more. I will not do that. Just, I will not. And we're going to see that increase, and people making decisions to maybe live on less, or maybe have multifamily homes, multi-generational homes. We will see that. We will see the idea that you can't sacrifice all that maybe the corporate overlords would want you to sacrifice. We see that. Not to say there's anything wrong with a corporate job, and not to say that every corporate job is bad. So you have to do what is good for you, right? What is right for you. But I increasingly hear, if you're sacrificing your health for work and the idea that it will pay off, that's wrong-headed thinking. If you can do it any other way, if you can't, you pray. You ask for protection of your health. You ask to be led in ways that would protect your health. But yeah, and do what you can. Do what you can. Some people, can handle very long work days, and they're working out. They're walking at noon. They're still taking care of their health. So I don't want to do one size fits all. But what I'm saying is, the ideas that are just running across the globe so quickly. It's not just in the US that people are skipping jobs that would really harm them. This is happening in other countries too, right? This is happening all over the place. So that is power. An idea whose time has come. The idea of not feeding corporate giants with your dollars, that is an idea whose time has come. So I don't want to make it seem like I see a steady march by the global oligarchs to just have us all do their bidding. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. There are a lot of unpredictable things that will happen. And they may have plans for certain nations, certainly to isolate each nation from the others, certainly to weaken alliances, absolutely, or dominate an alliance. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be successful, because it's also the age of information. And does it matter? Does it matter what each country's leadership wants if all of the citizens of all of the countries are able to communicate, regardless of language barriers, in real time? Does it matter? Because those relationships will grow. Those bonds will grow among the citizens of different nations that have much the same experience, right? So I don't believe that the people are going to be as controllable as those who are very powerful might think. I don't believe that. So please, I don't want to be dooming and glooming, but I know that you guys listen to these kinds of videos. Same reason I ask Universe and Source about this stuff, to sort of prepare ourselves, right, as best we can. And so I hear the thing about protect your health. I hear the thing about be very skeptical of division, while at the same time understanding that it is at a fever pitch right now in the US, and take it seriously. Protect yourself. Be careful. Be careful. If your gut is telling you to be more reclusive, do that. If your gut's telling you, I'm going to build community ties in this way, do that. But, so we take it seriously, the forces of division, but we also know that that's a strategy, dividing rich from poor, dividing whites from non-whites, dividing men from women, dividing, how many more categories, just along any category. Division weakens a people. Isolation of nations weakens a nation. So these are the things that are being brought about. So what else should we know about that source? Again, don't buy into the system. Let's see. King of Swords. Yes, educate yourselves about facts. Yes, of course. Hermit, of course. Source keeps telling me, here's the thing. The divine is, from what I can tell, It's truth and love. Neither more important than the other. There are the two aspects of the divine. That's what I believe. That's what I've seen since I had a spiritual awakening long ago in my early 20s. And both are just as important. And truth will have a way of winning out. What I also hear from Source is, yes, people are meditating more. Yes, there is more help spiritually now. Yes, people are understanding that they all have psychic abilities somewhere that can be expanded upon and grown. People are understanding that, and not everybody, but more and more and more people are understanding that there are spiritual forces that can help them and they can be called upon. So people are getting this. People are getting this, that sometimes the best way to help ourselves is to develop our practice of whatever spiritual practices we have. And meditation is one, but whatever spiritual practices we use to be able to choose what we're thinking about more. This is why I do like meditation in a lot of ways, because it does let us transcend our ego-driven brain. And often one can develop the power to have that pause, like almost see a thought come through and choose whether or not to take it up. I will let that one keep going. It's this, it's a step back. So you're not living unconsciously, you're living very consciously. It's an interesting thing. And it's available to everybody to develop that kind of practice and to develop more control over their thoughts and what's going on, and looking from the higher self more than from the earthly ego. So those kinds of things nobody can take away from you, and they are the most powerful things to transform your life by far. They're more powerful than getting rich. They're more powerful than finding the right partner. They're more powerful than solving every problem on your list. Developing this ability is much more powerful to improving your life and improving your joy and your peace than all of the others put together. So I think people are understanding that more and more. And it is the truth, capital T, truth, capital T, truth. It is hard to control people who have that going on, that kind of level of living out of their higher self, their higher consciousness. Really hard to control people. Really hard to get them too riled up. So this is spreading like wildfire. And all kinds of spiritual practices are, I am not saying meditation is right for everybody. Sometimes, especially if there's post-traumatic stress disorder, no, meditation is maybe not the right thing to do at the time. Like that, the surrender kind of transcendental kind of meditation. But so there are many different ways, and I firmly believe Source is good to us and bringing us in the ways that we need to focus on now. Who cares? Tomorrow it might be something different, but now, what do we need to focus on? We don't need to learn it all at once. We don't need to become extremely skilled all at once. We're all on the path, but the point is, more and more people are on the path. And will be, because see, truth with a capital T tends to win out. So that is going to make things more difficult to control. A question that comes up to me, and especially movements toward authoritarianism that we see in our country and in many countries across the globe. So will global finance, global tech, will they, whoever these figures are, will they try to control through our authoritarianism? Is that the idea? Well, we have the Three of Cups. We have the Hermit. Boy, I was shuffling and shuffling. And we have the Ace of Wands. Well, you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing it's more like, controlling through opportunities, like almost like getting people to fear being in a situation where they have no choices so that they grasp an opportunity that gives them choice. It's more manipulative than this, is what I'm hearing. Because authoritarianism, I always hear, is not the best for profits, because people, if made to work, generally don't work harder than people who buy in and want to work. So it's the opportunity. It's the Ace of Wands kind of thing that, yeah, it's more like manipulating. Not to say authoritarianism won't be used to make people fear certain things, because it would, like help to censor people and such, because the ideas are the most powerful thing. So yes, if it's authoritarianism, it would be for that purpose. How widespread is that going to become is what I want to know. Right now, in its infancy, it's not that widespread. The authoritarianism we think of, where people can't say anything, people, they wouldn't dare like drop out of society. They wouldn't dare leave their conventional life, that kind of authoritarianism. They wouldn't dare quit their job because they would look suspect. This kind of authoritarianism, I'm having, number one, wouldn't criticize the leadership, right? So, Page of Swords is actually telling me that kind of extreme authoritarianism is actually in its infancy. It is not well developed around the world. Okay, why is that? Because there's too much, people can talk. There's too much debate. That it is like whirlwind going through when it's tried, and people are upset and they're distracted from working and buying. And that's the last thing that's wanted. A creeping authoritarianism, I think, would be much more preferred. Okay, so what's the future with this? It's all about greed. It's all about greed. And hanging on to the money. So, let's see. Two of Coins. I kind of feel like what I'm seeing is we kind of continue as we have been, right? Many countries have been voting in people who are more authoritarian, and then the next round voting in people who are more liberal, and they go back and they go forth, and that's what we've been doing in the US. So what I'm seeing is more like kind of that. And what I heard my guide say the other day is people will have the amount of authoritarianism their nation wants, because in the US here, there are plenty of people who believe authoritarianism kind of thing is needed. They cleave to that because there has been so much change and so much, just so much change so quickly that they want somebody to come forward and make everything go back to the way it was decades ago, and make everybody do it, and make everybody behave, and make everybody pull their own weight, all that kind of thing. So in other words, authoritarianism exists insofar as enough of the people want it. I can't say that about all governments, like North Korea, of course. I mean, that's iron fist there. But in some ways, it does. It's sort of like, might take a while when the people stop wanting it, and take a while to get back to something more liberal, to move away from the other. But the point is, what I'm hearing is that the global oligarchs really don't care. They would, maybe some authoritarianism to censor, sure. But other than that, they know from the collapse of the Soviet Union, they know that compelling people to work isn't going to work unless you put a chip in their brain, right? Because people can slow down their work, people can do shoddy work, people can look busy. Yeah. So I don't think that's even the key variable here. which is interesting because that's what I'm most worried about when I watch the news. But maybe, is that a distraction? 10 of coins. Yeah, I think it's a distraction. Queen in some ways. Or just to make a whole population more compliant, maybe. Like take a lot away from them and give them a little back and they're happy. That kind of, maybe it's a manipulation. Queen of coins, I keep seeing this card for big donors that are donating to far, far right parties. I keep seeing that for some reason. Yes, there's some ideology. What about ideology source? Okay, so governments will often do very stupid things in the name of ideology. It just turns out to be usually not helpful. But then again, ideology can also inspire a group of people to create something new or overthrow something that's oppressive. So I don't know. What do the global oligarchs think of ideology in these different countries? 3 of Swords, Ace of Swords, 5 of Wands. It's okay with them if there's people, if it serves to divide, is what I'm getting. If it keeps people arguing, it's okay. And if they can work a revelation into social media that looks like a spiritual or religious usually, revelation. And then they could take advantage of the control that some religions already have over the people of a country. Okay, so it's an opportunity. They have an opportunistic view of ideologies, I guess. And if it divides nations from each other, so that they can't get, there can't be this sharing of ideas, exposing the truth. Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay, so in the U.S., show me the next 3 years source. Well, we're bedeviled. We're going to hear concerning headlines that hurt our hearts. Lots of manipulation. People worried about money. The manipulation is some things will come down from the administration that look like they're good for the people, but really don't amount to much. Okay. What else? How fractured will we become in the next 3 years as a nation? No, we have strength. I feel like they're saying, don't anticipate in the next 3 years that happens. Okay. What else? Working hard. Definitely the plan for the U.S. is to get people, it's been the plan, right? To get people working harder and harder, being more and more productive and spending more and more. Because all that feeds the global powers. So that continues to be the plan. All right. And of necessity, like people will do it because they must, not because they're being made to, but they kind of are being made to, because finances get tighter and tighter, right? Bedeviled, right? This can also be greed. We're also quite brainwashed into a very materialistic kind of view. Oh, yeah. The guides always tell me, forget about keeping up with the Joneses. Do not do that. Because our world is going to be changing away from that anyway. So don't put yourself in debt to be impressive when in 5 years, people won't, that's just going to recede as important to people. Okay. So they always do. And prudence with money, debt. Prudence with debt, specifically, they say. Prudence with debt. What about that? That's good for us to do. 6 of coins. For our mental health too, right? 9 of swords and the wheel of fortune. There's changes coming here. maybe I think I'm saying it too simplistically, you guys. Prudence with debt. I kind of feel like they're saying not all debt is going to be bad. Um, it might depend upon where you live, what happens. I don't know. But I am seeing, of course, they don't want us to be up worrying. They want us to have security. This is saying there will continue to be more cuts and less help. So it's good to be prepared for that. This is all very fear-inducing. Source, what do you want to tell us about this? Yeah, the love of God. Okay. The love of the angels. You are loved. You are beloved. Please don't get into fear. They're just saying, please don't get into fear. They're telling me that I can't make a big, broad statement about debt because it's different for different people. And believe it or not, there will be some debts that end up being erased. I don't know how, but this is true. So, probably not property debt, but they're saying each person, each family will need to do their own plan. But it's prudence. It's prudence. Is it a good idea? Be wise. Listen to your intuition. Is it a good idea to own property? Hope, Knight of Swords, Page of Cups, hopefulness. Well, they're certainly saying don't think you shouldn't own property right now. I think there is something to owning property, especially property that's pretty much paid for or all paid for. Great. I think there is something to that that's important. Why? Because it takes a while for things to change. So in other words, we are going to be seeing some injustices. I believe that the more people need to rent, the more the rents will go up. Death. What's death? Justice. Sitting pretty. They're just telling me that injustices will continue, and it's better to be sitting pretty. It's better to be, and it may not be you that has the cushion. It may be a family member you can rely on. That's okay too. But property that is indeed paid for, I keep getting, is important. So, and I do see people moving in with family and things like that happening. I personally, this is what I keep seeing. Proliferation of tiny homes. This is what I keep seeing. Oh my gosh. Tiny home communities, tiny homes in backyards. Already we see that, especially in places where property is very expensive. I see a proliferation of this. And technology is going to help this to happen so that people can indeed live on the same property as family members and still have their own lives, So I guess what I'm seeing is it's not a bad idea for most people. Again, you have to follow your intuition about it. If your gut is saying, not for me though, not for me though, I know that's not right for me, then follow your gut. But for most, it would not be bad to have a home base, some sort of home base. Let's see. Relationships with people you can trust, very important. What else? Yeah, love. Yeah, also for support. They keep telling me, just for support. And so you're not worrying so much. Absolutely. Again, just like don't give up your health for your work. Don't give up your relationships for your work. That's a big one. No. Because it's like when your health is gone, nobody can get it back for you. If important relationships in your life have been damaged beyond repair because of, your whole life is around work and you don't have any quality energy to give them at the end of the day, that needs to change. I keep hearing very strongly that kind of thing needs to change. So there's some advice. We all worry about things like habeas corpus, things like citizens' rights in the U.S. What do they look like? And their immigrants' rights as well, because all people in the U.S. who reside there now at this moment has rights to habeas corpus. They have a right to be able to defend themselves before any punishment is levied, including deportation. So we have Six of Swords, we have Page of Coins, we have the Temperance Angel. What does that Temperance Angel mean? Let me see. Justice. Okay, so I think it's protected. I think it's ultimately protected. But this Six of Swords gives me pause, because it's sort of like, okay, but we're hearing a lot of things, or we're learning a lot of things that were very hard and turbulent and kind of got us down. But then we're going into calmer waters eventually, because that's why that's the Temperance Angel, eventually. And justice means courts hold. Yeah. So that's what I've got regarding that. Page of Coins. What does Page of Coins mean with this question? Nine of Coins. Okay. I am being reminded that it's never a bad thing to have some finances available, or finances you could use if you ever got in trouble. It's not a bad idea. Or family members who do have that, because it gives us maximum freedom, doesn't it? Like a lot of, yeah. So what I'm hearing is this: a lot of the damage done to the U.S. in the coming years is similar to what's been done, right? We have increasing homelessness. We have, yes, we have what? Well, that's King of Cups. That's foreign interests involved in our American politics. The High Priestess, a lot of mystery. It's very multi-layered, but it's sort of like living on the edge is not a good place to live. And I know that some of you out there are on the edge. And it's not your fault. You know, it's been tough. It's been tough in the US. So, and some people are on disability, and some people are single parents with little kids and they can't work full time. And I mean, I know. Okay. What for them? What for them? What for them? What? Well, and I could say us too, because I mean, middle class is only a bit above, right? So what are we looking at? 10 of Cups, Temperance Angel, 8 of Coins. Yeah, it's sort of like the Republicans are going to have people working more. That the work requirements for benefits, that will happen gradually. But be temperate, be wise. It's not happening all at once, so it's okay to prepare. I think that work requirements won't be, part-time would be fine, I think. I think that's true. Well, 30 hours a week, are they saying? Something like that. But this is gradually implemented, and it's different across different states, because some states will be able to fund their social welfare programs more. And then others, it won't be gradual, it'll be quick. Page of Cups. But there's some good news there. And there's the Lover's card. Okay. But, they're also telling me, don't forget, your government swings back and forth as well. And next time, probably it's a Democrat. So this is an evolution. But I feel like they always keep telling me, nobody can take away your spiritual life. Nobody can take away your health. At least not generally. I mean, except for a crime, right? Or war or something like that. But I don't see that for the U.S., no. Civil strife. Yeah, the divisions will be stoked. Yeah. Justice card. Or the Emperor, the Emperor. That's not Justice. Have I been calling the Emperor Justice sometimes? I think I may have. But that's the Emperor. Okay. So there will be some increased civil strife, and I think we all kind of see that happening. It's engineered. The rules from above, right, from on high in the government, will create more of this. Let's see. Poverty will also create more of this. Unhappiness at work, strikes, boycotts. Ace of Swords. But then they're telling me in the midst of all of this comes truth. Comes truth as well. The more people understanding that the civil strife is probably orchestrated to divide us. And I think more people will understand that. I see, well, of course, this always is how it works, isn't it? The American people have a common adversary. It's the oligarchs. Yeah, that's true. So we have a common adversary. So that actually eventually will tend to unite us. I always see that too. Oh, I was doing remote viewing and I saw the weirdest thing. It was like a day when it wasn't the Democrat Party. It wasn't the Republican Party. It was, I swear, I think it was called the apolitical party or something like that. The apolitical party? Does that even make any sense? You know, any politician by virtue of being in politics would be political. But you know what? Things don't have to make sense. I saw a time when more and more Americans, if you asked them, they would just say, I'm apolitical. You know, I'm not getting involved in that nonsense. And there may be a leader elected at the federal level that is apolitical. Sort of, or a third party. Maybe they're an independent. I don't know. But the point is, the rhetoric is, I'm not the usual politician. I am here to help the American people. And that person does indeed help much more. We eventually get to something like that. Although by then the federal government is not so very strong. So state governments will be stronger. So interesting. I did see that. That was like, wow. Yeah, there'll come the time when all of us get real tired of the blue versus red thing and consider it very problematic and see that it caused more division and more protests, counter protests, that kind of thing. There will come a time when everybody's sort of done with that. Yeah. Lover's card. Okay. So that's what I see. I forgot to talk about technology because Source keeps telling me technology is going to level the playing field more and more, no matter what they do. So, and technological advances, even though a lot of people are going to be losing their health care more over the next several years, they're several, is that right? 5? I always see it's 5. Technology, medical technology comes in to bridge that gap a lot, make it much more inexpensive, much easier to access. AI is indeed used to help people, not to say there aren't doctors, but to help people to identify their problems earlier, change their lifestyle as they go, things like that. Hermit, there's some new inventions coming because Source is telling me that they are inspiring. There are guides inspiring people right now across the globe. You know how Einstein was probably inspired? Yeah, there are too. And death. What death of what? Hopefully not death of hope. Chariot. Okay. All right. Okay. We have some real major arcana here. Source, what does this mean? Yeah, this strife will end. The civil strife will end. And there may be, I mean, you know, of course, there, you know, we see deaths now that are totally preventable. So there may be more deaths. And then, but be hopeful. And some things can change very quickly in a positive way. Just like we can have tower moments, some things can change very quickly in a positive way too. So what I guess I hear from Source is you guys have been in this war on the working and middle class, as low income. You guys have been in this for decades already. And so a lot of this stuff is not new. But what's new is people are recognizing it, and people are talking about it, and people will be uniting with each other around that. So that's what I get. So it's bumpy. It's bumpy. You can absolutely stay safe. Source keeps telling me you can absolutely stay safe. You can absolutely protect yourself and your family. You can absolutely be healthy. You can absolutely grow in spirituality during this time. Source keeps telling me this. Don't think that because there's strife on the news, that has to be your reality. Source does keep telling me this. So, yeah, just don't think that has to be your reality. Because a lot of that is almost engineered to make you afraid as well. Let's see. King of Wands. Yeah, they keep telling me about that Democratic lawmakers. Maybe they're telling me about Democratic governors. Page of Wands. There are many politicians who may be much more locally invested. Let's do the next thing. Local governments, very important. I also saw in the remote viewing communities eventually where there will be community dollars or town dollars or city dollars, and they can be used to buy things there in the city from each other, really. And barter programs, barter plans. I've seen that. I probably mentioned that already. People bartering, selling their services on a platform for this many city dollars, right? So there will be these parallel governments that, as our federal government weakens, there will be these parallel governments that rise up. And they will be quite effective. They will be good. Help to educate the children, that kind of thing. So this will happen too. So also there might be methods of governing that are uncovered through this whole plan that are best. So there's that. And also, Source keeps telling me that the divine is love and truth. And the thing with AI is it consumes vast amounts of data, and it can spit out the truth. And even the global oligarchs eventually will be impressed by that truth, because the truth is amassing power and wealth makes no one happy. They're human beings. They want to be happy. They want to be safe. That's why they amass power. They want to build up their human egos, as we tend to, and that's why they amass power. But that's not peace. That's not joy. That's not love. So they always tell me that. Oddly enough, all the research that AI does will help us all to learn the ingredients of a happy, healthy life and seek to find them in our own lives more. And that will include the oligarchs. That will include the global oligarchs. I am not even kidding you. So there's something, again, truth with a capital T, truth. That, and we have as I'm saying that, we have a fraudulent representation of that online now, don't we? But truth is extremely powerful. It rings, it frees people. And the funny thing about AI is all those truths that come forward may help us a lot. That's the turning. There's the turning. There's the turning. There'll come a time when AI isn't used to control us better, to divide us better, to sell us things better, to brainwash us better. There will come a time when AI is used to help Mother Earth Oh, other technology too, that would be then. To increase security and health, to help us make sense of everything we've been through. That's what I see. Okay. Well, that's a mouthful. Those of you who have stayed till the end, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, if any of this resonates with you, write it in comments below. It's wonderful when these discussions happen in the comment section. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.